Hi, y'all. So we're back in here with another episode of the Indigo Podcast, and today I'll be talking about the power of integrity. So I have a little meaning here, like I did with the last episode. I think it was perceptions everything. So I got a little meaning of the word integrity. So the meaning of the word integrity, according to Google, is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles that you refuse to change. I honestly think integrity is one of the most important qualities a human being can have, because it's really what you do behind closed doors that matter the most. I mean, people can push you to do certain things, you can do certain things around certain people, but I feel like that doesn't really matter if you can't hold that same standard when you're alone and hold the same moral principles and the same code of conduct by yourself. So I think that's the most important thing, because where do you spend most of your time? By yourself. You're not always around people. I mean, maybe if you're in the house with people, but most of the time you'll probably be by yourself, and that's when it really matters. So I think it's one of the most important things anyone can have, and I think everybody should strive to have integrity. But I think the main question people should think about is, can you do the same thing when no one is watching? Like, what fuels you? Is it the praise of others and people telling you good job and telling you, oh, keep going? I mean, obviously that's good. You shouldn't not want support. I'm saying, is that the only thing that fuels you to get after it? Like, can you fuel yourself to do what you set out to do? Or is it just person A or B? Are they the only source to make you do what you want to do and what you aspire to do? I just want you to think about that for a second. But first thing I'm going to talk about is just choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. I think there's a lot of hard rights that people have to put. Even just getting up and starting the day, that could be a hard right, because some people just don't want to get up and start. But it's really easy to not choose the hard right when no one's looking, because if you think about it, no one's watching, so no one will know. But I think that's the most important thing, because you can't lie to yourself. I think a lot of people just lie to themselves, and they're like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll push it off, or they just procrastinate. You're lying to yourself, because you know you're not going to do it. So you're choosing the easy right, the one that's instant gratification instead of delayed gratification, which will help you more in the long run. Because I think of when you're faced with the choice of choosing the hard right over the easy wrong, you should think of, okay, is this going to really help me in the long term, or is this going to screw me over when time, goes on? Because it's really easy to choose the hard right when someone's like dead, like they're on your back and they're watching you and they're monitoring what you're doing. But it gets even harder when no one's looking. But at the same time, though, when you consistently do it, just like anything else, you get in the habit of it. That's just who you are as a person. So it's not even a question. But if you're not used to that and you're so used to only choosing the hard right and doing hard things, and people are looking, like, let's say, like a good example is like a coach. Like, coach is there, and they're facilitating the workout, making sure people, I mean, obviously if you're going longer miles, you can't really see everything, but they're administrating the process. But what if coach isn't there one day? Are you not going to practice even though you still have a training block that day? Well, not training block, but a training session that day. Are you still going to train? Because a lot of people, when the coach isn't there, they start freaking out, like, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But no, just because the coach isn't there doesn't mean that changes. You still have to hold that same standard. Even you have to act like the coach was there. And then, let's say there's another instance of the coach is showing up, or just you're training on your own, you'll know how to deal with it, and you know how to choose the hard right even when no one is there. And that's how it should be. I think you should have that in your character, to do that no matter the circumstance, no matter if coach is there, no matter if your mom is there, no matter if your dad's there. You should do it 24/7, no matter what the circumstance is. You should do it anyway. But I think it's really important to choose the hard right over the easy wrong, because that ultimately forms the trajectory of your whole life. But that's the first thing. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. But the second thing I got here, a lack of integrity is a false reality. Like I said earlier, if you lack integrity, you're honestly just lying to yourself, because you could. I think the first thing that comes to mind is Instagram. Because a lot of people post filters. Nothing wrong with that. Like on Snapchat, my Snapchat days, I used to use the dog filter and stuff. Like, it's funny, but like some people, they do Photoshop or whatnot, or they change the way their face looks or whatever, or they just act like who they really aren't. That's a false reality. You're lying to yourself. And a lot of people do that just to get people to lean over and like them, when in reality you should like yourself first. A lot of people just think, okay, what if this person dislikes me, and what if my mom doesn't agree with this, what if my dad's mad that I did this? I mean, obviously there's certain things that are out of line and out of pocket that you shouldn't do, but there's a lot of things that you should just do just because you like to do them, and that's who you are. Because I think a lot of people, I used to do this too, like they'll talk a certain way, they'll dress a certain way, they have certain lingos, and they do certain things they probably shouldn't do just because person A is doing it and it's cool. And them being themselves, they don't think it's cool and they think they're lame because they're just being themselves. But I feel like if you're being yourself, you're honest to yourself, you're honest to others, and you just feel better about yourself. You're not putting up a facade. You don't feel like you have to try extra hard just to be something you're not. You're just naturally being you and just holding your own standard. And if people don't agree with that, I mean, that's cool. You have to have that integrity to be who you are. I mean, obviously certain things behind closed doors need to stay behind closed doors. You don't need to air out. No one should air out everything, because a lot of people overshare. You should not overshare. I'm not saying go and tell your deepest, darkest secrets and post it on Reddit or something. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is who you are as a person and your standards and, your morals should be the exact same as who you are behind closed doors. And when you go out in the real world, it should be the exact same. You should be the exact same person as a person. But I'm talking about, like, obviously your secrets and, stuff that people don't need to know and should stay close to you and people that you want to know. Obviously, don't tell people that. That's your private information. But in terms of your character and, like, things you do, your actions that, people see, it should be you and you only, because a lot of people just fall in the trap of trying to be like their friends and, hop on waves, and they're not really thinking. So I just think if you lack integrity, lack a strong moral code, and lack a strong character, it's just false. It's not real. So I think that can just put people in a rabbit holes, and they're just not really sure of who they are as a person. But it's really important. Just make sure you're not lying to yourself. So I think a lot of people are lying to themselves, and they're telling themselves that I'm this person, and their actions don't line up at all. So a lack of integrity is a false reality. I think that's really important to be aware of if you're lying to yourself or not. But the next thing, track record. And you might be like, what are you talking about? The thing with a track record, I learned about it in The Courage to Be Disliked, and a track record is just the history of things you've done. Because the thing is, if you have a history of bailing on people, not being consistent, just not being the best person ever, it's a track record of you doing that consistently. Because just like you running consistently, lifting consistently, doing anything consistently, you can be consistently bad too. So if you're consistently bad, that just shows people that you're untrustworthy. And if you lack integrity, it's gonna reveal itself. Because let's say, for example, you're not training, like you're not hitting your runs, you're not lifting, you're not doing your training correctly. When it comes time for the track meet or the race, it's going to show. It's going to be blaringly obvious that you didn't train and you have no mileage on your legs and you have no base, because it's going to be a suck fest. It's just going to show, like, you're not going to be at your full capabilities. You're going to be probably in the very back. You're going to be way off your pace. Like, it's going to be blaringly obvious, like I just said. But if you do have integrity and you have the discipline to do what you have to do, hit your training, hit your splits to the best of your ability, you'll probably be where you are. I mean, obviously life isn't nothing's guaranteed, but you should be hitting paces and hitting a good effort in the race. But if you lack integrity, you're going to be unreliable, and it's just going to show. It's going to be blaringly obvious. So I just think integrity that, like, leans into discipline and consistency and whatnot, things like that, it all comes together to make things work how they should work. Obviously, there'll be some circumstances that come in the way, like, just anything could happen, but it should meld together, and you should have a good, finished product. If you have integrity and you're consistent, you're disciplined or whatnot, but just lying to yourself and a lack of integrity, I feel like I think everything reveals itself eventually. It might not reveal itself at the first instance, but it'll reveal itself eventually. So I just think making sure you have integrity and making sure you hold your word and making sure you do what you set out to do, it will make sure things go to plan. But they may not always go to plan just because things that are out of your control, obviously. But if you just like, all right, I'm not gonna do the training and whatnot, it will show up. You might not think it will, but it'll show up, and then you'll most likely just be disappointed and be like, why am I not where I want to be? It's just because you lacked integrity and you didn't do what was set out to do. So all of that adds up. The track record of you being, let's call it consistently bad, because I talk about being consistently good. The opposite is consistently bad. So you're just being consistently bad over a long period of time. That builds a track record of you lacking integrity, discipline, consistency, or whatnot, and it creates a finished product of you not hitting your potential because you just lacked integrity and you lacked the honesty and the will to be honest to yourself and prove yourself right. But the next thing, it kind of just this kind of goes along with what I just said. A lack of integrity reveals itself. Like, I kind of just said the same thing, to be honest. So I'm not gonna repeat this because I didn't realize I would kind of lean into that. But pretty much it's the same thing I just said. Like, it will reveal itself because it's a track record of being consistently bad. But it honestly just forms doubt. And when you go out to race or go out to do the presentation or whatever, you won't be confident at all what you're saying because you know that you have no base, you have no track record of you being consistent. Like, there's nothing there, so you'll just be doubtful. I think that's why a lot of people get kind of nervous and scared when they have a big thing and they know in the back of their mind they probably didn't do everything they should have done, and they probably didn't do everything in their power to get after it. So when that time comes, they're like, oh crap, I'm cooked. In reality, you shouldn't be, because all you had to do was just be I'm not saying it's easy, but just be consistent and have the integrity to do what you set out to do, and you would probably have way more confidence. Like, all right, I got this. I have reps. I've built the reps over time, and I know what I'm about to do. I think a lot of people, when it comes to that moment, they freeze up and they're like, I'm not really confident because I don't have the reps and I didn't do all of the reps. So I just think it forms doubt and paralysis by analysis. And you start thinking, oh, am I going to mess up? Am I going to slip up? What about this? Is this going to suck? You just start thinking like that because you have no base. Because you missed the reps. So you're not really sure about what's about to happen. I mean, obviously you don't know everything. I mean, you can't foretell the future all the way, but you have way more confidence if you had the integrity to do out what you said to do and be consistent. I think that's one of the main things that's powerful about consistency, because it builds a lot of confidence because you put in the consistent reps over and over again, and it's second nature. Like, you're like, all right, let's get after it. Like, it's not even a question. But if you didn't, you're just like, I don't know about this one. Like, I'm low-key scared. And I think even if you're consistent, you should be a little bit nervous, but it'll be even more heightened because I've experienced it, but like before too. Because let's say like a perfect example. I know y'all can relate to this. It's a school project and the deadline is in 3 weeks, and you first get the project and you're like, I have 3 weeks. That's plenty of time. Before you know it's 3 weeks later, the project's not done. It's due at 11:59 p.m. If you go to school, you know what 11:59, like, you know, the 11:59 p.m. like everything's due at that time normally. And it's the night before and you're like scrambling, like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Now, if you would have had better time management and had the integrity to get it over with as soon as possible, you wouldn't be as nervous, you wouldn't be as doubtful, you wouldn't be wondering if it was going to get done because it would already be done by the time. So you would just be like, all right, what's the next assignment? But if you push it off and you're like, okay, I have enough time. And in reality, in your mind, you know, it's gonna come faster than I want it to. Pause. So when that time comes, it's too late, and you're frantic and you're nervous and you're doubtful. And I feel like that's a good example to relate to that, because it's just, you weren't being consistent. You weren't consistently doing the work a little by little, like doing, okay, I'm about to write this portion of it. I'm about to put a picture here. I'm about to, you know how the project goes. Like, it has portions that you have to do. So if you just try and just do all of it at once because you haven't built that up, it's going to all come crashing down, and you're just going to be overly nervous and you're going to be freaking out. And honestly, it just makes you stagnant. Like, you're just disappointed, and you can get discouraged, and then you might just stop altogether because you're discouraged of the outcome. But if you're consistent over time, it may not come to you at first, but over time, consistency compounds, and it'll give you the result you want over time. But yeah, that's the fourth thing I was kind of talking about. But the fifth thing I got here, second to last thing, there should be no negotiating with yourself. So I think I feel like whenever you say something, it's set in stone. Like, if you didn't really mean it, you shouldn't even say it. I don't even think there should be obviously there might be periods of time where you're like, I don't know, like, that's okay. But at the end of the day, you can think for like 5 minutes, and then you have to make a decision and choose the hard right over the easy wrong. And I just think a lot of people negotiate with themselves. Like, let's say you ever run in the morning, and because obviously some days, it doesn't matter how good you get. Some days you might not want to run. And you start negotiating, like, oh, what if I do it later? Or what if I do it tomorrow? What if I swap this with another workout? No, it shouldn't even get to that point. Because the thing is, if you let it get to that point, you're going to end up, okay, you push to later. Then later comes later. Does that even make sense? Later comes later. Okay, later comes or whatever. and you're like, I'll just push it off to tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes like, I'll push it off. And then it just comes to a cycle and you never do the run. It shouldn't even get to the point. Because I feel like if you even negotiate with yourself, it'll get to the point where you don't even do it. And it just gets to a cycle of you not doing what you're supposed to do. I think you should, because that time's gonna come when you don't want to work out or don't want to run or don't want to do whatever you want, like you need to do or are aspiring to do. You have to be in your mind, okay, how is this gonna affect me later? Is this just me procrastinating, or can I just use this as a time to get better? Because I feel like a lot of those times, like I feel like I saw this post Nick Baird posted on Instagram. If I find the post, I'll put it right here. But he was saying there was never a run I regretted, and I will relate to that so much. There's never been a workout I've regretted. There's never been a run, there's never been anything in terms of fitness I've regretted, like at all. Like I've never regretted it, because it's just when you're on the other side of that fence, it's just like the runner's high comes in, and you're like, you just learn a lot from it. Like you learn, like I'm more resilient than I think. Like I'm more capable of than I think. And just in the midst of it, you're like, okay, like you might be in your head, but once you're done, you just like you. I don't care who you are. If you go for a run or whatever modality of training you do, when you're finished, you don't regret it at all. Like I've never heard anyone say I regretted going to the gym when they're finished. I've never heard that. It's just the fulfillment you get and the self-praisement, like you praising yourself that I did what I set out to do and I was consistently good today. That's another brick added, and it's unbeatable. Like I feel like that's one of the most fulfilling things you can do in life, in my opinion. Even if it's not training, like just doing something you set out to do and just enduring the process. But I just think you shouldn't even negotiate with yourself. You should obviously be aware of the thoughts. I'm not saying disregard them. Like be aware of them. You shouldn't lean into them because it might drive you the wrong way. But just be aware of them, and then just like, all right, there's no negotiating. This is what I set out to do. I'm gonna do it because I need to be consistently good instead of occasionally great. Because if you're consistently good, when you want to pop out and be occasionally great and get like make a big effort, all those consistent efforts will show themselves, and the work will speak for itself. So I don't think, because I think when you start negotiating with yourself, that's when you start procrastinating, and then that's when you start getting stagnant, and then that's when stuff starts going downhill and starts hitting the fan for real. So I think you should allow those thoughts to come in, be aware of it, but make sure you choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Don't let one day derail your whole thing. Cause I think another thing Nick Barrett said too, he's like, like, let me think. He's like, you build something in droplets, but you lose it in buckets. That's a really good thing. Cause if you just allow out one day of you being, I don't want to run, and you're like, okay, you give in, you'll lose all that progress in buckets, because it'll just become an endless cycle, and you'll just lose all that progress in buckets, and then you'll be at square zero. Well, square zero, ground zero, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like it'll just spiral and spiral, and it won't be pretty. So don't even allow it to get to that point. So I think a lot of people get in their heads. And I think everybody has two voices, like the one that wants to get after and the one that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think a lot of people lean into the one that's like, and then they just go downhill. That was a weird noise, but I think you get the point. But I don't think there should be any negotiating with yourself when you say something, especially when you speak it out into the world. I really believe you have to hold it, like you're accountable. You literally put it out there, so you have to do it. You have to hold your word. I think holding your word is very important, not for yourself, but just others, because it makes you reliable, and it makes you kind of predictable in a way. It makes people more prone to trust you with certain things. But it's the same thing I did at episode 32. I just have a saying I like right now, and the saying I like right now is prioritize yourself. And I think a lot of things I've noticed, like a lot of things in life, like some at certain times checking emails and texting certain people back, like I wouldn't say it's not meaningless, but at that point in time you could probably focus on something else that's more important for you. I'm not saying be selfish and be arrogant and push people off. You shouldn't do that, especially if you really love and care for those people. But I think really making sure you're okay first. I think if you're okay, you can make sure that everyone else is okay. Because if you're not okay, you're not being the best version of yourself. I've kind of already went over this. You're not being the best version of yourself. You're not really showing up as who you are and who you want to be. And I just think a lot of things, like certain times of the day, like you got to wind down and, cut it off, like especially when you're starting to go to sleep. So I feel like if you're trying to be everything to everyone, you can't even be anything to anyone. Like, I think if you're trying to put on every hat and do every single thing for everyone, you can't really even show up for yourself. And I think that's the one of the most important things. If you don't show up for yourself, I've already kind of explained this in a previous podcast episode. I don't know which one, but I'll put it right here. You can't show up for yourself. And I think like recently, like I found myself like stressing over like just like kind of dumb in the moment, like maybe groceries or whatnot, or just whatever, just kind of like big boy stuff or whatever. I don't know why I described it as that, but you know what I mean. Just stressing over stuff that I care about, but in the moment it's not even that serious. It's not even that serious at all. Like I don't really have to worry about that. I need to worry about, okay, how much sleep am I getting? How's my training going? Am I talking to my parents? Am I talking to my friends? Making sure I'm showing up for them. Am I being just a decent person? Like things like that. I think those are really, and nutrition, things like that, like things like I really care about. I think, making sure those are in check, obviously, but it's just, I think certain things, especially like maybe on the internet, you might worry about, like, I think a lot of people worry about social media, like how many likes they got, how many comments they got or whatnot. But at the end of the day, if you're being consistent, I think everything will play out the way it's supposed to. If you control what you can, it'll play out how it's supposed to. And the things that you can't control, they'll just come in and they'll do what they need to do, and they'll pass eventually. They'll pass eventually. So I just think, because I think like a lot of people, I would say I'm an overthinker because I like to really like get into things. I think that can be a strength and a weakness. I think it could be a weakness because you just start diving into meaningless things and wasting your time and spending time on things that you could have spent on something more productive and more fulfilling for you. I just think, like, especially with, like I said, the age of social media, people are more prone to do that because you can do doom scrolling or whatever, just scrolling all day, looking at other people do things or whatnot. But I just think a lot of people need to prioritize themselves and make sure, am I being truthful to myself? Am I holding the standard? Am I being consistent? Am I taking care of my health, my fitness? Having decent community with people and just being an overall good person. I think one of the main goals is just be a decent human being. Because I think if you can be a decent human being, you can help other people be decent human beings, and y'all can all eventually change the world and make the world a better place. It might sound corny, but I think it could really happen if, someone, not someone, just people as a whole, they change the trajectory of their lives and their families and just hold the standard and push, forge the envelope to be better. Because I think the main goal is being better and just being consistently good. I think it's one of the main things people should do. But I kind of went on a tangent about that. But I just think making sure, like nutrition, fitness, or whatnot's in check. I think a lot of people are way more capable than they think. And I think a lot of people are way more powerful than they think. And I just think if people really dive into themselves and really learn who they are and really lean into the other side of the fence and lean into the unknown, they'll really see how capable they are and really see how far they can go. But that was the episode I had about the power of integrity, and just a little saying I had, just a little rant about that, I guess. But I hope y'all enjoyed that episode, and I'm gonna see y'all next one.